Everybody's mad at Trump again, and tomorrow's your chance to finally get him out. What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I need you to hit the like button, comment when I get on your nerves, and subscribe so you know the next time I'll be getting on your nerves. So I woke up today to people being upset about the fact that Trump had encouraged the people who had surrounded the Biden Harris bus. And I gotta say, on this one, I think he's right, because I really do feel like what we call the United States is in danger right now. And I'm not worried about it in the way that I'm going into panic mode or any of that stuff. I'm just hoping everything plays out the way that I want it to play out tomorrow with the election. And I really do think Joe Biden is bad for the country in the way that the media does not want to report on things that he's done that are less than positive. And I'm being as nice as I can with that. But I just think we're in a scary place when not only the media doesn't want to call it out, but regular people don't want to call it out because they want him that bad. And I think to myself, how far does this go? Even when it comes to this particular thing with the Trump supporters surrounding the Biden-Harris bus. If you look at the way that happened, the black truck is in the left or is in the middle lane, and then the white SUV is in the left lane, and it tries to go over. If you look at the video, you can see it's over on the middle lane, like it's being aggressive towards the black truck. The black truck is bigger. The black truck is also a Trump supporter, so more aggressive. And I know Trump supporters are more aggressive, but you have to be. And I really do mean that. When you support Trump, you have to be more aggressive because people do think it's okay to physically assault you. They think it's okay to talk to you any way they want to. And this is something I can tell you from firsthand experience. People talk to you like you're a piece of trash if you're voting for Trump, which it's cool if you don't like Trump, but to take your interpretation of his words and then put that on all of us, we all must be racist. We all must be. And you haven't even heard the full statements. I've heard so many people, when I've told them that, say that they don't need to hear full statements. They know what he said. And it's like, so nothing could ever be taken out of context? Because I would argue that almost any one of us has things we've said before that if they were taken out of context, they would sound racist. Even throughout your day, you say things that if they're taken out of context would sound completely different from what they are. And nobody wants to actually hear that. Nobody ever wants to, even when you put something in their face or tell them, look at this, check this out. They'll come up with reasons why that's not genuine or why it's not valid or what Trump's motivation is on it. And it's like, why are you always looking for something to be wrong with this particular person? What's the matter with your life that you want this person to be so evil? Is that how you work? Is that doing something for you? Because me personally, Biden, I'm sure, has good qualities as a person. But I just don't think that the way that the media is handling that, because they don't like Trump, is fair. And I don't think that we should all be in support of that. That's what bothers me about what's going on with Biden. Do I think he's the worst person in the world? Not necessarily. I think he's just a politician that's very used to getting his way and very used to not being questioned and doesn't want that to change, because if he has to answer some of those questions, the answer is probably going to be something the American public doesn't want to hear, doesn't agree with. Biden's family has really been able to line their pockets by using Biden's name. That's his name and his influence has gotten his family to make some deals that they otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to make. It's got his son some jobs that he probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And that's just what it is. But for some reason, we're not allowed to talk about that. And then people will say, well, that's because his son isn't running for the president. Well, you certainly have no problem bringing up Donald Trump's kids. I mean, that happens all the time where people are like, oh, they look like they're on coke and whatever else. Well, you don't mind calling it out when it looks like Donald Trump's kids are on coke. You don't mind calling that out at all. And I don't mind you calling it out. It doesn't bother me. But then you see Hunter Biden with not only a crack pipe in one picture, but a crystal pipe in another. And suddenly now you're blind. Suddenly now you don't want to see that. But with Trump's kids, you're like, oh, they look like they're on coke. And the reason that that's even important is because if his influence is being used in different ways for what's basically corruption, then do we really want him to be our president? Isn't that what everybody's always complaining about with Donald Trump? So if we're worried about that with Donald Trump, but then we see it also in Biden, what makes it so Trump's version of it is so terrible and Biden's version of it is so wholesome? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up. And asking me to vote that way just because you happen to be all right with Biden's corruption, to me, isn't good enough. We already have Trump. We already know what he's like. So why do I want to take a risk on Biden, who I don't trust when it comes to people of color? I just don't. As a person of color, I don't trust him. And that pisses a lot of white people off. A lot of white liberals get mad at me because they think their judgment is supposed to be good enough for me. So because they approve him, I'm supposed to be like, oh, okay, you're right. Never mind the fact that, like I said, I see things on the left that are definitely more than just a little bit hypocritical. And I see that the left really does think that violence is the answer when it's their people that are being violent. Like if you look at the stuff that's happening with the riots, there's always a way to justify the riots. If you look at the way that if the right is trying to have a protest or a rally, it's not allowed, it's not legal, it doesn't fit guidelines. But then when thousands of people flood the streets for Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protest, then suddenly it's all okay and the virus isn't possibly going to spread that way. Well, the virus either works the way it does or it doesn't. Like the virus, I wouldn't think, unless it's some kind of virus that I don't know about that has political leanings, but the virus doesn't care if it's a Black Lives Matter rally or a Trump rally. Either way, the virus is going to spread. Then you see articles online that say that Trump's events are super spreader events. And then you see another article online that says Black Lives Matter protest might have actually helped to slow the spread of corona in, I think it was Denver, was where that supposedly might have helped to slow. How does that make sense? And if we're really pulling the I believe in science, explain that to me. Scientifically, how does that work out? That one type of rally slows the spread and the other makes sure that it spreads like crazy. In 2016, I shared a bunch of videos that were people committing violent acts against Trump supporters, and everybody was all right with it. I've been to 2 different Trump rallies. The second one was here in Las Vegas. It went off without incident except for one person that tried to disrupt. The one that I went to in Arizona, which was the first one I went to, Trump detractors shut down the road that was on the way out there. Luckily, we had already made it to the rally and were waiting for Trump to get there by the time that happened. But the people that were later, because the rally hadn't actually started, the people that were later than us ended up getting blocked on the roads and police had to take them out. And when I was at the protest, you would see the Trump detractors pouring water down people's backs while they're taking pictures and then acting like victims when they would go after them. Like, oh yeah, fight me. And it's like, what? Why are you trying to goad people into fighting you at an event where nobody wants you there? Nobody wants to fight you. That's not what the Trump rally was about. There wasn't violence just going on for the sake of it at the Trump rally. It was people actually goading other people into violence. But for some reason, that doesn't matter, and we're not supposed to pay attention to that. We're just supposed to think of these poor people on the left as victims. And that's something I wouldn't respect from anybody, to actually start something and then act like the victim after it happens, to me, is not a respectable way to go through life. If you're just showing up to protest the event, then go ahead and protest. But when you're not getting people to get mad at you because nobody wants that vibe, then you don't start pouring water down their backs or doing antagonistic little things to hopefully make them want to fight you. So that's mainly what I'm kind of worried about and what I don't like to see, is because I don't think that anything or anybody should get to the point where people think that everything that particular arm does is right. In this case, it happens to be the left wing. But the idea that everything they do is all right, innocent, and done with the best intentions, and everything that anybody that's on the Trump side does is racist, homophobic, transphobic, trying to tear away at America. We either believe in freedom of press or we don't. We either believe people should keep their hands to themselves or we don't. We either believe people should be able to have different viewpoints and opinions or we don't. That's the way it works. And that applies to both sides. And with me, that's something I really do live by. I really do allow people to feel however they want to feel about whatever they want to feel it about. I'm not trying to stop you from getting information. I'm not trying to stop you from hearing or seeing things. I just don't understand what's happening right now. And I really, really hope that Trump supporters show up like crazy tomorrow. And I guess we'll see what happens after the numbers are in. Some people are talking about civil war, but we can talk about that another time. I just feel like the people that are asking for civil war or even talking about it don't realize that they're speaking it into existence. And when it happens, none of us are going to like that. And I personally, other than mentioning it in this way, keep civil war out of my mouth because I do not want to wish that into existence, even by accident. That's not something I want to see happen in this country. I want to see things get better. I want to see people get along better. And I know that some people would say, well, then don't vote for Trump. That's not going to fix it. Trump isn't the problem. Trump might be a symptom of the problem, but he's definitely not the problem. Anyway, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.